that's happening around the course and known what would happen, and he was unflappable. And that was really cool. He's a cool customer, and it's a different way of playing because was he like 120th in driving distance?
Yeah.
Like that's not his game.
He didn't make a bogey in the final round, right? And wasn't it by the time he finished, it was something like 28 consecutive holes without a bogey,
right?
Which is nuts. The
Crazy.
Up and down at 15. And
he was in trouble.
What they talked about I found interesting was the routine, that his routine was the same. He and his caddy did the same thing every shot, no matter if it was day one, round, early in the first round, whether it was everything was exactly the same. And the steadiness that he's shown to win these 2 championships, which I think are incredibly impressive. And you look at who he's beaten. He's beaten Paul Casey and Dustin Johnson to win the PGA, and he beats Spieth to win the Open. That's pretty impressive. He won the Workday Charity Opens, one of his other tour wins. He beat Justin Thomas in a playoff. He won the WGC, the World Golf Classic Workday Championship, by 3 strokes, and he beat Brooks Koepka, Billy Horschel, and Victor Hovland. So he's not winning great fields.
No. It's impressive.
He's beaten real people who are giving him contention that could make people know, look, Louis Oosthuizen's won a major. And he's been basically in the lead of the last 3 majors in a row and hasn't been able to get it done. And he's a tremendous ball striker.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
It's real hard. We will never see what Tiger did again. I feel pretty confident in saying that.
Never. I agree.
I think that if you go back and look at Tiger's era, and this is not even in any way, don't somebody say, oh, well, you're diminishing. Tiger's accomplishments stand on their own merit completely. He was dominant. He was the dominant force in a sport for a long, long time. Nobody was even close to him. And there were lots of good golfers then, but it feels like now, with all the names you went through who have multiple majors that are there, it feels like the talent at the top is more diverse. You go back to Jack when it was Jack and Arnie, and you'd have other guys who obviously could win some tournaments. There's Tom Watson's a great player. There are all these guys that come in and out. But it feels like in Tiger, it was Tiger and Phil were the 2 best golfers. And, of course, still had, guys.
Duval early
and then.
Who was, number 1 in the world.
Off the reservation.
Obliterated.
But it feels like there are just so many good golfers right now.
I don't know. It seems, but I also don't know if it's a product of there's nobody that did Tiger just lap his field. Ernie Els was a pretty dang good golfer.
Ernie Els was great. And Easy E.
I love that. I mean, so there was a lot of guys. Maybe Tiger was just so much better than the peers. It's hard to say. You'll never know because you can't. It's hard to compare generations.
Hard.
The big thing when you bring the Tiger part into it is, I don't think you'll ever see somebody with that type of athleticism and that type of drive combined, because a lot of these guys have parts of it, or they have the work ethic, they have this, but do they check all of the boxes the way Tiger did, the way Jack did? And the answer is that's hard. And I think one thing that's happened to a lot of these guys, I mean, Rory McIlroy is worth upwards of, I want to say something like $300 million.
That's the other thing I was going to
get to.
Is
he grinding?
The money.
No, he doesn't have to grind. He's comfortable. He's living comfortable. He's living a great life. You look about Ricky Fowler. You watch this tournament, Ricky Fowler's in every other commercial. He's selling Corona. He's slinging this.
It's unreal.
He's not even won a major.
No. And I don't know that he ever will.
Is he grinding? Does he? No, I don't either. Does he need to grind?
He doesn't, but I do think he wants one for his legacy. You never want to be on the...
Well, he has no legacy if he doesn't. If he doesn't,
Correct.
He's a guy... if he doesn't win a major and he's doing all the ads he's doing, like at some point, he's that guy. So, I think he has to have that. But I think that, so much comes so quickly, and this is a product of Tiger, that is there this drive, to chase it, to chase history. Like Tiger was driven by Jack. He was driven by 18. He was chasing a ghost. Much in a way that, Kobe chased Mike or LeBron chased Mike, like singularly focused on a ghost, not even his own peers. Like he was trying to get to 18. That was the number. So I don't know that these guys have that type of drive, and the money has come so much so quick that they don't need to. They're treated like super duper stars, even if they aren't.
Completely. And I mean, Fowler, I was just looking this up. He was on tour, turned professional in 2009. So I mean, we're 12 years into this thing.
Yeah.
And that's 48 majors,
Oh, yeah.
Roughly. and he hasn't been able to get it done. Now he's still only 32, but where does he go? But there are so many guys, so much money. You're right. I mean, you look at John Rahm. How much did that win do for John Rahm in the U.S. Open? John Rahm, I know he was in ads before. I feel like John Rahm is in ads all over the place.
Certainly on golf. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if any of these guys move the needle beyond golf. I don't think any of them do.
Agreed.
Beyond golf fans. But it is. I mean, still the biggest star in the sport is Phil Mickelson, and that's, pretty remarkable considering he's approaching 50 for the non-golf fan anyway. But it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Loved it.
Watched a little of the NBA Finals as well.
Same.
On Saturday. This is the ascent of Giannis is what this is. This is the start of a new trajectory for him from a career standpoint. And to do it in Milwaukee, the first time, at this age, it's going to be some pretty heady territory for him if he can close this out on Tuesday.
Yes, and I thought the final sequence, the lob, the dunk, the stare, great. The free throw misses, not as great. But Middleton, Giannis has been unbelievable, but I don't know that they can do this without Middleton. I think he's made a pretty good MVP of the series case if they do end up prevailing in this series, because he's the guy that they want to have the ball in his hands in the fourth quarter.
He's been great.
And all of his shots, his big shots.
Yep.
Phoenix, I thought they raced out to that lead, and then it was like, if Booker's not on the floor, it feels real discombobulated to me. And Chris Paul is not doing whatever it is. He hit the big shot, the big three late, but he's not enough as a number two. They still can have.
Well, isn't he 38?
He's not young. No, he is not a spring chicken. No. Booker's great.
Yeah.
It was a great atmosphere. Yeah. If you're Phoenix, you felt like you had the chance to get that one. You didn't, and now it's going to be pretty tough. They're the best road team in the league this year, though. They'll go on the road.
Yeah.
I do feel, and I don't know if you said this last week, and I made this comment with to my buddy Vince, who was in town while we were watching Game 5, and it was, you don't feel like you're watching the two best teams in the NBA play. This feels like a good series that could be easily an Elite Eight type of a game in the NBA Finals, but in the NBA playoffs, it doesn't feel like this. These are the two best teams that the National Basketball Association has to offer, because there are so many holes on both teams that we're not used to seeing this in the finals. It's fun, though, because they're playing hard. They're getting after it, and you could say Holiday's performance above the norm for what he was doing was the difference in that game, not to mention the big steal at the end that set up the alley-oop and all of that.
Yeah, I said that last week. I think I got that right. I think I got it wrong when I said that Middleton and Holiday were in the Mo Williams vein. Certainly Middleton is not. I do think that Holiday maybe has a little of that to him. Middleton has stepped up to so I got that one wrong probably in retrospect. But no, I feel like these are the two teams who survived playing 2 seasons in a year and a half. And everybody else was injured. Yeah. And it's still great. To your point, it's great. But, like, if I paratrooped you in and you were unaware of all of it and I said, this is a second-round series between Phoenix and Milwaukee, you'd be like, okay, that's what it looks like.
Be like, boy, they care a lot. But, yes, that's what the basketball looks like.
It's a big give-a-damn level, but other than that, it's not. No, it's not. It doesn't feel like Cavs Warriors. It doesn't feel like, even before that, some of the Lakers Celtics or any of those type Heat and those teams. I mean, there's not 3 stars, on these teams. Like Booker's going to be. He's a young kid though. Like he's not an established superstar. Like he's young.
Yeah.
He's really good. Yeah, and he's fun. He's fun to watch. But he doesn't. He's not a super duper star yet.
No, and Giannis is a super duper star. But he is the most he is the most incomplete super duper star I can remember. Now that I've watched, 5 games in a series and actually watched him. I mean, he really does not want to shoot the ball unless he is at the rim. And free throws are an adventure.
He's a young Shaquille O'Neal. He's a more athletic. Think about young Shaq in Orlando. Do you remember young Shaq?
Yeah.
How he used to run the floor and fly, and before he put on the weight.
That's a 7-footer.
Right.
Dickie V in the McDonald's game. Yeah.
Right, when he was at LSU. Yeah, like he's really, if you're looking, it's not LeBron or any of that.
No.
Really in terms of like like the game's changed, so he's willing to shoot threes and stuff where Shaq wasn't. But just from he's more in that realm than anybody else. You know, and Shaq was that way. Shaq didn't want it. He didn't want to shoot free throws. He didn't want that.
No.
You know, so there's a little bit of that to him.
He's just a more dominant physical product than anybody else out there. I mean, by a wide margin.
Correct, like Shaq was.
And the problem, here's the thing. This is the other thing I was thinking watching this, because I watched this one pretty much whistle to whistle. If you're going to put Ayton on Giannis, which they were doing quite a bit of because he has the athleticism somewhat to get his, I realize you want to sag off him and dare him to shoot, but when you sag as far as they're sagging off, you're giving him a running start at you, and then you can't react to his moves in times. They've got to close the distance.
He's running downhill.
Close the distance so that he has to at least go around you initially, as opposed to him coming to you, and now you're kind of like in baseball. You're in between the short hop. You're in no man's land. And that happened a lot.
I think it's an astute point. I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah, he can't get up ahead of steam if you're up in him.
Right.
You know, versus hanging back.
At least
and
be within
trying to
arm's
contest,
length so you can at least try to.
A runaway freight train.
Right.
Yes.
He was giving him 3 steps. 3 steps for him from the 3-point line. He's at the basket.
He's dunking it. Yeah, that's right. So they'll have a chance to close it out on Tuesday. Boy, how about this? Happy belated birthday to the voice, the great Jim Donovan.
Yes.
Hopefully his day was spent working with some corrals, getting the horses set up. He's got a big fall to get them prepared for, I'm sure, out there. But just the best. We're so lucky to have Jim Donovan as the voice of the Browns, and happy birthday to the living legend there, a true legend. All right, OBM Hot Topics, Ohio Business Machine preferred copy provider of the Cleveland Browns. All the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. So as Z mentioned, we are 1 week away from quarterbacks and rookies in the building. In terms of how much of a player COVID still could play in that, be ready. Here's Tom Pelissaro from the NFL Network on that.
The one thing the NFL has done consistently is follow the science, whatever that might be, to adapt to the CDC guidelines. They've been in communication with other sports leagues. They've been in communication with the White House task force. They've always paid attention to what's going on, not just in the scientific world, but in the sports world. And so I can tell you just in the past few days in talking to medical people with multiple teams, there certainly are, if not concerns, questions about some of the things that we're seeing right now in other sports. You had a bunch of the Yankees who have been vaccinated tested positive recently. You have Olympic athletes who are vaccinated who are testing positive. It raises questions in an environment where vaccines are not mandated for NFL players. You're going to have unvaccinated players in every locker room. So what are going to be the best practices here? They've obviously got a series of guidelines that have been highly publicized in terms of the differences between vaccinated and unvaccinated players as they head into training camp. But testing vaccinated players only once every 2 weeks, is that going to be the best way to go about it? Are there certain restrictions that might need to go back into place? These are all questions that they're going to evaluate. Absolutely, there's going to be an evolution here. You said a couple or several memos last year. There were like dozens of memos. There's 100 pages, and it drove people within the league absolutely nuts. Well, buckle up. There's going to be another series of that. It's a different set of challenges this time around. Of course, the NFL played every game last year. They did answer that first challenge.
Yeah.
You're up.
Yeah, and I think where we are now, and we talked about this a little bit last week with the Yankees cancellation. You've seen the Coco Gauff out of the Olympics and others out of the Olympics. And I think you'll see more of that in the lead up to I think the Olympics start this week. I think you'll see more of that. This is very much a fluid situation in terms of fans and all of that. I mean, you have the best intentions in the world, but here's what we know about the league. And we said this last year going into it. This is me talking, not the Browns or the NFL, obviously. Merely Beau Bishop. The NFL is going to deliver a television product. They're going to deliver it. We did it last year. So that will be the primary responsibility of the league, is to develop a television product. We're in a lot better situation than we were a year ago.
Definitely.
We know a lot more than we did a year ago, tenfold, 100-fold. But in the end, that is what is paramount, is the television product. And so navigating all of that is going to be fluid. And I think if you've lived in this country for the last year, you know that that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a very fluid next year.
It is going to be, and I don't know if you saw this, what Michael Irvin had to say about it.
I did.
So Michael Irvin said, this is via Todd Archer of ESPN, dude, you're not thinking right. You're not thinking right. Whatever you got, I don't give a damn. Nothing else can be more important. You're not going to get this winning a Super Bowl easily. Nothing else could be more important. Jimmy made that abundantly clear. Nothing else is more important. And not being one of the 85% vaccinated teams says there are other things to a great number of people on this team that are more important than winning world championships, and that makes me worried. If you're not one of the teams at the threshold, are you really thinking about winning a championship? You see what I'm saying? Okay, so now if you're not getting vaccinated, you got all these other teams that are getting vaccinated, somebody in that damn locker room should say, hey, man, we're going to have a chance. Are you vaccinated? Let's go through this because this could be a 2-week healthy dude missing games, and in this league, this isn't the NBA. In this league, that could be it for you. The right person means misses 2 weeks. That's it. Your butt is out. So that was posted by Pro Football Talk, and already players in the NFL, Cole Beasley, amongst others, have responded to that and come at that. So I think there is you have the teams that are going to be at 85%. Yep. I think you're going to have teams that are not, and some that are not going to be close. And this could become, Irv was saying there, somebody in the locker room needs to step up and say something. This could become a contentious thing amongst teams that could threaten chemistry. I do think that if you are one of the people that are battling for, let's call it spots 40 to 53 on your team, and you're not vaccinated, and somebody who is also in that battle with you and is vaccinated, they're going to make the team and you're not. So that's
just the reality.
It's just the reality of it. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah. This is going to be a real tricky needle to thread, I think, especially the next month. I think by the time you get to the season, it'll be everyone will kind of have their feet under them, and it'll be navigable. But I think right now, for the next few weeks, it's going to be very, very tricky on this front. And I think the big thing that is, and I've thought this, and again, this is me, there's nothing other than me talking as a radio host. I think you're going to have to get to a point where if you have vaccinated people who are testing positive, and we've seen that, Rich Eisen, NFL Network host, among them, if you have vaccinated people who are testing positive and they're asymptomatic, to me, they got to play. If they feel good, they got to play. So that's going to me, again, just my opinion, I think that's where, if you're going to have a situation where, because if you're vaccinated, you're still going to, there's still people testing positive. If you're going to hold all those people out for 2 weeks, that's going to be tough again, because this is not going to be, the big reminder here, guys, this is not going to be the same perimeter that the NFL put up last year around its players. They're out there living their best life all summer. Right? And they're going to live a good life in the fall. Like, they're not going back to what it was like a year ago if you're vaccinated.
Yep.
So that's the reality of it. So those guys will get it. They will test positive, and then are you going to let them play tested while they've tested positive? That'll be a decision the NFL is going to have to make.
Of course. And it's going to be – and I think a guy like Michael Irvin, what he's saying there is, for those teams, and I would say the Browns are one of them, you're on the short list. It's all in front of you on paper. Let's take one step back. And this is nobody did anything wrong on the Browns team, so that's not what I'm saying at all. But there is a scenario in which the game where the Browns were not able to field wide receivers against the Jets and lost a game that at full strength 100% you win. There's a scenario where that cost us the rights to be in the playoffs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I think what he's saying is let's make sure that there isn't you never have that kind of a pitfall in your organization this season. His point is pretty good, right? 2 weeks in the NFL, now the math is wonky, but it used to be that missing 2 weeks in the NFL, 2 games out of 16, 12.5% of your season. The equivalent in basketball of doing that would mean that you would be missing, 10-plus games, 12 games.
Right.
Baseball,
2 weeks. 2 straight weeks a game.
Yeah.
3 weeks games.
Which would be hard. They don't even play that many in 2 weeks. So it's unique in that standpoint. It's unique how much one game matters in the NFL.
Yeah.
You would hope that we were, you felt like we were on such a good trajectory and that this was not going to be an issue for this particular season. It will be. I'm sure once we get everybody here, and I'm sure one of the first questions Stefanski is going to be asked is, are the Browns in the 85% threshold? If you are, it changes your ability to meet as a team. I think there is a competitive advantage that is given to these teams that are at 85% versus those that are not.
Yes, no question. Yeah, it's going to be 2 different NFLs for those who are and those who aren't. And the teams that are above the 85 are going to have a better – it's going to be a tremendous advantage for those teams. So still, as much as you'd love to be done, not done dealing with that, and that'll be something that will be fluid as the season goes along. We will go around the league coming up next, including some signings. We'll continue with our 10 biggest questions facing the Browns as we head into training camp. Question number 6 coming up. We'll do some safety rankings a little bit later in the program. So lots of fun here on a Monday edition, off and running, Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. How about you kicking back in the evenings in your very own hot tub? Now imagine actually being able to afford one. Northeast Factory Direct buys hot tubs by the truckload. You get a 6-person hot tub with a lounger and the lights and still afford the rest of your summer activities. Thinking owning a hot tub would be a pain? Well, not at Northeast Factory Direct. Their hot tubs come with exclusive hardtop covers. You don't have to worry about safety or convenience. And if you're looking for a way to stay active, they have these amazing swim spas. They are fantastic right now. Stop in, take your photo with Flat Alex for a chance to win $500 in gift cards. Just tag Northeast Factory Direct on Facebook or Instagram to be entered into the drawing. Check them out in Cleveland, Euclid, or Macedonia, or anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. All right, time to go around the league. The Steelers hosting edge rusher Melvin Ingram on a free agent visit as they are in the market for a pass rusher. Isn't he the second one that they brought in? Then they bring in the guy from the Chiefs, right? Didn't they bring him in last week?
They've looked at a couple of people. Yes,
Justin Houston was in.
Justin Houston is still balling out, frankly, and playing at a high level. That's exactly what they need. So I would be fine with neither one of them making their way there.
Yeah.
Pro Football Focus has their top 32 edge rushers. They have Melvin Ingram at 25, just as an FYI. So don't be fooled by the goose egg in the sack column last season. Still put up pass rush grades around 75 in each of the past 2 years. He was still he's probably the most impactful free agent edge rusher still on the market. So he can play. Houston's had some sacks, but listen, Ingram and Bosa for a long time were a very good duo down with the Chargers.
Yep.
And he's a name that we talked about. I certainly would have had interest in him becoming a Cleveland Brown. He's more of a stand-up guy as opposed to a hand-in-the-ground true 4-3 defensive end. But guess what? That's exactly what they do in Pittsburgh. So Melvin Ingram, to me, not past his prime by any stretch, a very talented football player who, he's likely to give. He went to the Pro Bowl 17, 18, 19 in those seasons, 10.5, 7, 7. I mean, he gives you enough opposite T.J. Watt that is problematic.
Well, and I think that's the thing. You just said 17, 18, 19 was Pro Bowl. Last year was a kind of a wonky season, and
Only
he's one of those
7
guys
games.
You put him on them, and of course he'd be great.
Yes.
Of course he'd be great with them. That's just the way it goes. This is what they do, and honestly, they need it because I think offensively, now they're going to get a boost with Najee Harris, and I think he's got a chance to be Rookie of the Year because I think they're going to rely on him. I think they need him to be like a 1,300-yard rusher, quite honestly. But they need to recoup a little bit defensively. They need to recoup on their offensive line, and so they need this. They're not going to be as good in the secondary as they've been in recent years. So, I think they need it, and I'm kind of with you. I have no interest in it. Like, go away. It's cold in Pittsburgh in November. Stay south, young man.
Yeah, no thanks.
Preferably to the NFC would be nice. This from 49ers safety Jimmy Ward, not concerned about Matthew Stafford joining the NFC West. He said, I like Stafford, but they still have to win the same players that he'll be throwing the ball to. He's the same quarterback who was on the Detroit Lions. They still didn't go to the playoffs. They had Megatron. What was the problem over there in Detroit? You're going to blame the city? What was the problem? Was it the money? Was the city didn't have enough money to bring players over there? Why even have an NFL team? That's a big question. I don't know what that has to do with the other. They went and traded for Goff, who went to the playoffs several times. Yeah, he lost. He went to the Super Bowl, though. I've yet to see that with Matthew Stafford. I'm saying he's still great. I believe he's a top 10 quarterback, maybe top 5. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just going off what I see, and I see Jared Goff got those boys to the Super Bowl. So this is a wildly contradictory statement.
It's insane, first of all. Second of all, it's filled with factual inaccuracies.
The whole thing.
He did go to the playoffs with the Lions in 2011, 2014, and 2016. So 3 separate times he took that franchise to the playoffs. So that's not even true that he didn't take them boys to the playoffs.
Correct.
They did go to the playoffs. What I hear in there, what I took away from this was, yes, wildly. If you're top 5, I don't believe he's saying that Jared Goff's top 5. But he is saying, boy, it seems like they really just kicked Jared Goff to the curb, who was really good for them, and they think that this guy's going to be a savior automatically, that, they already had a good quarterback. Do you think bringing in another good quarterback is really going to make that big of a difference?
He's saying that Stafford is a top 10 quarterback, maybe top 5, but he's not. But that's not. But he's not great. And why hasn't he won anything? I mean, So it's just wildly. I think that division is because there's a lot of animosity in that division.
Yes.
There's no love lost. With those teams, with the Rams, the 49ers,
the love
and
is
Seahawks,
not
and
lost.
we know now that Kyle was very interested in bringing in Stafford to the 49ers and was quite surprised actually when he got dealt to the Rams that weekend when they were all down in Cabo. So he was interested in him. They didn't get him, and so they went in a different route. I do think this. I do think that for the first time since he was at Georgia, there is tremendous pressure on Matthew Stafford. Tremendous. To be, I feel like for this to work, because they give up a lot, not just Goff, but first-round picks. Like, for this to be validated, it feels like they got to win the NFC West 2 out of the next 3 years.
Yes.
And they got to get to 1 Super Bowl
At
and
least.
probably an NFC title game or two.
Yes.
In order for it to, I mean, maybe not two, but certainly get to an NFC title game, get to a Super Bowl, is that like kind of the minimum for this to be viewed as, yeah, this was all worth it, because they gave up ones too.
Yeah. And we talked about earlier, not only does he have all the pressure on him, I think he has all of the pressure. Sean McVay's pressure just was conveniently transferred to him. He's carrying multiple pressures.
I agree.
Squarely on his shoulders, while McVay has gotten just, it's not me. It was that Goff kid.
Right.
And if it's maybe Stafford's washed up. Maybe those back injuries were too much.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's it. It does feel it's all at his feet. So that team, that division, and it lines up great because most of our games are at 1. Lots of their games are at 4:05. So you'll be able to watch us and them on a Sunday if you're at home, or if you're unable to get to the games. You'll be able to watch us, then them, and by them I mean the NFC West.
Yep.
That division's amazing.
Yep.
That is amazing. Niners, legit, right? Garoppolo, then they got Lance behind him. Rams with Stafford. Russ in Seattle. Kyler in Arizona. That's awesome.
It's awesome.
That's a great division. It really is. It's going to be fun. A lot of fireworks. A lot of smart offensive guys there in that division as well. Be interesting to see how it all shakes out when it's all said and done. We continue with our 10 biggest questions heading into the start of camp. Question number 6 today. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Beau Bishop here for my friends at EOX Vantage. And EOX Vantage connects core systems that don't talk. From reporting and analytics to insight and decision-making, gain a more complete real-time picture of your business. Eliminate those Excel nightmares from business processes and visualize your important data all in one place. It is so convenient. Gain that real-time insight to make data-driven decisions on performance through role-based visualization dashboards. With EOX Vantage, you can benefit from lower overall costs, better alignment between technology and specific business needs, scalability, ease of deployment, and management. EOX Vantage makes your data work smarter to move your business forward. You're all about growth. Your software should be too. With EOX Vantage, your company will scale effortlessly. Local presence, but global footprint, trusted by some of the world's biggest brands. Time to hit issue number 6, question number 6 on our 10 biggest questions leading into the start of Browns training camp and the 2021 season. The question from Hello Gibbe is this: which position group will have the best competition overall in camp? Some of these I feel like there's one answer. This one there's a couple that I think you can make an argument for. You've done this already.
Yes.
So I wrote down just off the top of my head, I thought linebacker was first because I think Walker feels like a sure starter. And then beyond that, obviously Owusu-Koramoah is going to play a lot, but you got Mack and Phillips and Taki, and I mean all those guys are going to be in the mix. And I think that's kind of the only position group where I'm like, okay, I'm not exactly sure who's going to start and in what spots because there's a lot of different guys. Although we like a lot of them. I thought defensive tackle certainly makes a lot of sense in terms of who's in that group because feels like there's 8 guys who are pretty talented. And maybe 4 make it. So I think that one's pretty interesting. And then just personally, I'm interested in the back end of the wide receiver conversation. I think that'll be a fun group as well. I could make an argument on any of those 3. The one that I kind of settled on was linebacker, is the one that I ended up settling on. Where did you go?
Oh, boy. Once again.
Oh, boy.
Great minds think alike.
All right.
So I said, once again, the focus on defense here, and I think there are many intriguing battles at all 3 levels. I said I'm going to get to defensive tackle later in the week, and that's the one where you could have some roster surprises. That's a question, spoiler alert. I said that should be an intense competition to see who ultimately makes the roster. At corner, the Browns feel like they have 4 starters for 3 spots now with Denzel, Greedy, Troy Hill, and Newsome. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. But the position that I'm most excited to see battle it out in camp is the linebacking core, just like you said.
Go.
And I said this is the one position where I think both playing time and roster spots are completely up for grabs.
I love that.
I said you would expect that the Browns will ultimately carry 6 linebackers based on historical trends, so that is the number we're going to focus on during camp. Said we also know that the Browns will play significantly more nickel and dime with 1 or 2 linebackers on the field than they will play base defense with 3 linebackers. That's why the battle for playing time will be so fierce, and players will likely focus on their specializations and situational roles rather than full-time roles. I said, now that's not to say that somebody cannot earn a full-time opportunity because the Browns certainly have enough talented players to do so. Free agent signee Anthony Walker Jr. was an every-down player for the talented Indianapolis Colts defense and has averaged over 107 tackles per season over the last 3 years. He is considered the early favorite to start at the Mike linebacker position. Second-round pick Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is widely considered to be one of the steals of the 2021 draft. He's got the ability to play the run, to cover, and to blitz at an elite level. He has elite 3-down traits and has impressed coaches with his ability to be in the right place at the right time consistently and to not make the same mistake twice. Yes, of course, he will have to earn his playing time as a rookie, but I would not bet against him becoming the starting will linebacker. So you could make the case for both of these guys that they just end up being those are the guys. Those are your 2.
Might just be those 2.
Those are your 2 every down linebackers. And then, most likely the third in base is probably Sione Takitaki because he is the Sam. He was top 5 as a run defender, according to Pro Football Focus, amongst all linebackers in the NFL a year ago. He improved his coverage skills. He had that multiple interceptions, the pick 6 against the Eagles. He had the pick against the Steelers in the playoff win. So he's a darn good player. Jacob Phillips probably enters his second season with the highest internal expectations in terms of somebody taking a leap from what we saw previously. He started at the Mike linebacker week 17 against the Steelers in a must-win, double-digit tackles, ran the defense. He's got the size, the length, the speed to play sideline to sideline. They love him. Is he the backup Mike? Is he the backup Will? Is he both? Is he on the field with the three of them together? Is he on the field? Does he actually work more in a rotation with Walker Jr. is considered maybe his needle would point more towards run defender than pass coverage guy? I don't know. And then there's Mac. Mac, was slated, I think, for a big role last year. Gets hurt in camp, kind of battled some things throughout the season, but he played his best football late in the season. That's what Coach Tarver told me against the Chiefs, and he had a standout minicamp. He's in great shape. He's worked really hard, and the coaching staff was blown away by what the Mac Wilson they saw in minicamp. So I think Mac Wilson, you would have said maybe a lot of people were making this speculation he could be on the bubble. I think Mac Wilson, if he continues, training camp goes like the early portion of the offseason goes, I think we're talking about what's his role. Not is he on the team, what's his role going to be, because they like what they've seen. So that's 5. We've already gone through 5.
Yep.
Then you got
5 dudes.
Malcolm Smith, the veteran, the one old head in the room who was top 10 in terms of coverage grades at Pro Football Focus amongst all linebackers in the NFL. So is he in your sub packages? Does he make the team as a veteran at this point? You also have, so that's 6, Elijah Lee, who was the Browns' top special teams performer a year ago. And you lost a guy like Tavier Thomas off of your special teams. You need to keep those core guys. Elijah Lee makes this team without even being thought about playing a defensive snap. Then you drafted Tony Fields in the 5th round, who you liked. A space linebacker, tackling machine at West Virginia, natural coverage skills, great hands. Does he make the team as a special teams guy early? He's probably not going to be on the field. Who knows? Maybe he has a great camp. We didn't get to see him. And then there's Montrell Meander, a converted safety, now linebacker, who's been with this organization for multiple years on the practice squad and on the active roster. So all of a sudden, getting down to 6 is difficult, when last year it was like, who's even going to play linebacker? And who's going to play? I'm fascinated.
I think the way you phrase that's why it's so interesting, and is I like that line. Playing, it's the only position group on the roster where it's both playing time and roster spot. And you could go from, theoretically, you could go from either thinking you're a starter to not making this team.
That's right.
And there's no other position group that has that wide of a swath, to go from thinking you're a starter to not making the team. And as you just articulated, if you're going to keep 6, you're cutting somebody who can play.
No doubt. You're cutting somebody who will be immediately picked up in the NFL. The only other position I could think of was defensive tackle, because let's say a Malik McDowell or a Marvin Wilson just come out and dominate training camp. Then are you thinking about, do we need the veterans? I don't know. It feels like you know who the 4 are.
You could talk yourself into that. Yeah. I think it's easier to I think linebacker, that's true without even blinking.
Correct.
Other than Walker and JOK, it's just wide open. Those 2 are obviously in, but beyond that, I think it's wild for those. Everybody else for 4 spots is pretty crazy. Malcolm
played great clutch football for you a year ago as a veteran and a guy who understands the system, good coverage. They love Phillips. They love Phillips.
That's known, yeah.
I know people don't believe this, but had Owusu Koromoa not fallen in the 2nd round, it is highly likely that Tony Fields might have been the only linebacker this team drafted.
Agree.
And now, because he is there, you've got him, you've got Walker. They love Phillips, I said. Taki's great in his role. Mac, believe me, Mac opened up a lot of eyes with what he did out here in minicamp. Not just from physically, we saw the physical he looked great and he looked fast. Mentally, where he was in terms of assignments. He's a talented guy. You're talking about a lot of bona fide
nose for the ball
talents.
That was, as a rookie,
apparent.
Like he just found the ball.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's going to be a fascinating room.
Yeah,
and what's good about it is they're going to you're going to see, going against our offense stresses linebackers as much as any offense in the NFL. The run fits are difficult because of the zone scheme, because they get you running horizontally. The marriage of the run and the pass, the way that the run action and the pass play action look the same, trying to cause that one misstep. the fact that this defense is going to ask these overhang guys like a Phillips, of course, like an Owusu-Koramoah, to go step out in the slot with a flexed out Chief or a flexed out Austin Hooper, or sometimes even go and let's line up with a receiver out there with a Jarvis Landry in some of the coverages. This offense will give our defense, especially the linebackers, really one of the best opportunities to be in incredible competition day in and day out and prove who deserves to be on the field, who deserves to be playing in what situations, all of that. I mean, I don't think you could ask for, if you're a linebacker coach, a better offense to get your guys ready for the season than what the Browns' offense is.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. And I think it's a group that you can't have a day off. You can't have an off day. No, it's just there's too much talent, and there's so many similar players. And aside from those top two who we've mentioned, it's everybody else for 4 spots. And you're going to have to be elite special teams guys. And I like your points on Taki. I don't know that people realize how good he was against the run. I don't know that that's given its full attention that it probably deserves. And he really was a guy last year who blossomed. Like crazy. I mean, we did not see that as a rookie. You know, he seemed like he was a little riding on the edge sometimes from being in a control spot. But where he was at the end of last year was pretty remarkable. And so when you talk about if you have to play Tennessee, you got to play teams where you need base. You're going to want him.
He was Pro Football Focus's number 2 run defending linebacker in the NFL last year, 13th overall.
Jeez.
Malcolm Smith was 7th best coverage linebacker in the NFL and 12th best overall grade. I mean, that's high level playing. And then not to mention Phillips and Mack, and then of course the guys that you're looking at as going to be your studs and your starters, Anthony Walker Jr. and I believe JOK. I mean, I'm not betting against that guy, period.
Yeah. No. That's it. That's the group. It's going to be a fun group to keep an eye on over the course of camp and see who makes it, who starts, and what all of those things look like. Coming up at the top of the hour, we take a look at our safeties. Where do they rank in the NFL? We get to that coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Injuries during childbirth require experienced counsel. Call the lawyers at Elk & Elk for a clear answer as to what happened during your child's birth. Elk & Elk, a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio, today. Did any of you guys check out the Space Jam? Over anybody you know, any young children, any kids?
Many I know have checked it out. I've heard rather mixed reviews, but I was told I don't even need to watch the movie, but I need to watch like the opening couple of minutes, and they're great.
Gibby, any Space Jam experience with anybody you know? Nephews?
No, nothing.
No?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Shocking. So the boys went on Friday and liked it, and of course it's geared for them. Like, they are the target. They're 9, 7, and 5. They love basketball, Looney Tunes, all that's a win. So on Saturday, though, in the middle of Friday night, the boys, the two littles, woke up like with nightmares and about clowns.
Oh,
and I'm
no.
going, clowns? Like, what happened here? So Saturday during the day, because it's on HBO Max now, so they were watching it, and I was getting coffee or something in the morning, and I look over, and like a lot of Warner Brothers characters are in the film, not just Looney Tunes, beyond that. So one of the people that's in it, like in the crowd, is that clown who's the clown that's in the horror movie? Like the big white-headed clown?
Like from
Pennywise.
the Stephen King Pennywise?
That guy. Yeah. He just said it. Pennywise. That one. I haven't seen the movie. He's in Space Jam. Yeah.
Why?
Great question. So apparently what they did is they took a lot of Warner Brothers properties, so they must own that, whatever show that. What movie's Pennywise in? Do you know, Nick?
It's It.
It, right? Yeah, not Cousin It, but
Okay.
It. Yeah.
Okay, so like they must own that. So he's in that. I want to say somebody was telling me this morning like they had like Game of Thrones characters in it. Were in it because of the HBO parallel, that there was like some of that was in it in like the crowd. I'm like, well, that's pretty aggressive. I mean, that clown's a little creepy, right? I mean, that's a little aggressive. Aren't the Looney Tunes enough?
Is he
Do we
trying
need
to
any more than that?
Was he in the drain too? Was Pennywise in the drain trying to lure them in?
I don't know that. I don't know the role. I just looked up and saw it, and I thought, well, yeah, that would be particularly disarming for a 7-year-old to see that clown.
Do you think that hold on, I don't know how to even want to phrase this. I feel like a lot of people that I am friends with of our age and have no time for clowns. And I find it hard to believe there were generations and generations where clowns were just A-okay and were prominent on TV. Like, clowns were scary.
Take.
And I don't know, my kids don't like clowns.
I have thought that.
I feel like they're on the
No,
outs.
I have think clowns largely sucked my whole life.
Yeah, same. But older than us, clowns
At no
were big.
point.
Bozo the clown?
Bozo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in fact, I remember even going, like, with McDonald's when I was a kid, and they would have, like, the Hamburglar and all of that. Like, I was always a little weary of Ron. I always thought, I don't know about this guy. Like, maybe I'll roll with this Hamburglar guy.
You gotta
I
have,
don't know
like,
that
a smile painted on your face. Like, I feel like maybe you're not to be trusted.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's even gone, so this Pennywise person, and then the last few incarnations of the Joker have been pretty dark. About as dark as can be.
Yeah.
So I think, maybe that is it. Like, I don't know that my kids – that's a really astute point out of you, because certainly my dad's generation, you'd have clowns for over at the for birthday parties, have clowns come over, do their act.
Last thing I want. Terrifying.
No.
That's why I was way more of I was always way more of a Grimace man. I felt like Grimace looked like he would never hurt anybody, and if he tried something, I'd be able to run away from him. He's too big, too slow.
Do I know Grimace? Who's Grimace?
Yeah, McDonald's is Ronald McDonald is the Hamburglar, and then Grimace was the big, purple blob kind of a guy.
Blob is a great description, actually, because I don't know what else it could be.
Yeah, I don't know what he was.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Grimace.
What's that guy going to do? He's great.
Yeah, he's great.
There you go.
He was like the forerunner of like a
What's wrong with that
beanbag
guy?
chair. You could just sit on Grimace, hang out. It's great.
Yeah.
Give him
Yeah,
like that.
I'm for that guy. Yeah, that was good. No, I don't know. So anyway, yeah, the clowns. So he showed up. So we had clown nightmares. So that's no good.
No good. And in fact, it's interesting the things that will get kids early. I mean, we probably watched Jurassic Park maybe a little early in Bryce's career.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty realistic. It turns out he was a little concerned
pretty
about
aggressive. The Velociraptor.
Pretty concerned about a Velociraptor showing up. But I will say from a television viewing standpoint, we did watch this weekend Black Widow. Tremendous.
That was good.
Tremendous.
Was that on the Disney Plus or did you go to the theater?
You can do both. We did it at home. And Scarlett Johansson's great. I think her name's something Pugh, Lindsay Pugh maybe, plays the sister.
Okay.
She's couldn't be better. And then Hopper from Stranger Things is in it as the dad. Plus a Rachel Weisz sighting. I haven't seen Rachel Weisz in a movie in a long time.
I bought a lot of stock in her about 15 years ago.
Mummy? Yeah, when she's the Mummies. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Weisz was strong.
Is she married? I think she might be married to Daniel Craig.
Really? I don't know. Well,
I mean, I said it not so emphatically, but like 80% like confident.
You didn't say it emphatically enough that I would not even bother to go to the wiki, but I feel like that's such a random call that it's got to be rooted in some kind of fact.
You're usually it wasn't emphatic. I can't go with that.
No,
I think
felt
so.
like about 80%
a lot of rabbit holes.
I think so.
Not
I'm gonna hold on. I believe in you. Yes, Daniel Craig.
Let's go.
Married 2011.
Let's go.
Should have.
Before that, yeah, I was with you. Before that, she was with Darren Aronofsky, who was also
he's a director, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she was Melina Vostokov in the Black Widow. She was great. Yeah, she was engaged to filmmaker Darren Aronofsky from 2005-2010. Married Daniel Craig in 2011. So that's a pretty quick trend. There's might be a 30 for 30 in there.
Well, he's pretty dang good as Bond. I mean, he's convincing. Like he'll never be able to get like the Connery Bond love, but he's pretty dang good. I don't know what more you'd want in a Bond than what that guy's been in Bond.
Yeah.
He shows up in an Aston Martin. I don't think you're saying no.
Just saying, you're engaged to somebody else in 2010. You're married to another guy in 2011. Says,
hey man, escalates quickly sometimes.
Right. As loyal as your options, pal. As loyal as your options.
Not one for browsing.
True love cannot be found where it doesn't exist, nor can it be denied where it truly does.
What a line.
That's deep.
I love it.
Monday.
I love that.
I can't handle that. My brain not able to get through that.
Well, there it is.
That's it. That series, I went into apprehensively the Marvel universe.
Incredible.
Apprehensively.
Same.
And I think it's as big of an accomplishment as you can have in cinema. That you can tie like 15 movies or 18, tie them all together.
Try 30.
Flawless. Is it however many is it? 20?
Yeah, it's in the almost 30.
Flawlessly cast. Like, would you recast any of those people?
No.
One. They're all perfect. I mean, from Ant-Man to Thor, like they're all perfect.
And everything everything ties in from one to the next that it's supposed to. There are little things you go back and you go, oh yeah, that makes sense. And now they've done WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki. They're going to do another TV series as well based around Hawkeye. I mean, you're talking about now they're spinning into big-time TV series that also make sense within the universe. And, in fact, they're using the TV series to explain some of the next steps that you're going to see in the movies about the multiple, realities and all of this stuff. Like, it's nuts. The level of command over the source material and the level of command over the universe that's been created is just stunning. It's great.
I think it's going to, at some point, though, they will want to reboot Iron Man, Captain America. Like, those are you're going to want to redo those in some way.
Yes.
Because, I mean, Iron Man's like 2000, isn't it like 5, 6, something like that? It's a long, Iron Man's like 15 years. I think.
The first one?
Like, it's like that. The first Iron Man,
I think 2008.
Yeah.
Okay, 2008.
13 years ago.
That's a long time ago. Like,
yes.
By 2030, you're going to want to find a way to repurpose that thing,
Yes.
So that's the tricky part is how they continue to land that plane, because they've landed it all masterfully. To this, I know there's a new Thor coming out too at some point, so they'll be able to do that. So that'll be absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it will be. All right, coming up next, we get into our safety rankings from around the league. We'll tell you where our guys stack up on that. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Well, it certainly is summer. Time to open your windows up. Let that fresh air in. Your windows won't open. Well, you're in luck. The buy one, get one is back at Weather Seal Home Services. Buy one Ultra Seal window, get one Ultra Seal window free. Buy 5, get 5 free. There's no minimum or maximums to replace all your problem windows at once. Weather Seal's Ultra Series windows are strong, durable, beautiful, easy to clean, and easy to open. For the lowest monthly payment, you have to ask about Weather Seal's exclusive 7-year zero-interest financing. That is with approved credit, of course, but it's 7 years zero interest. Weather Seal, locally owned, and a name you can trust. Call 877-WINDOWS or visit weathersealhomeservices.com for more on that front. We continue our look at the various NFL rankings. We're dealing with safeties now. Jeremy Fowler, so we'll handle his first. So this is the league executives, the coaches, the scouts, the players, their ranking of the top safeties. Minkah Fitzpatrick, number 1 on this list. Our guy John Johnson is number 8 on this list. He was as high as ranked as number 2. Lowest ranked was 14. I'd like to know who that is. Last year's ranking, he was unranked. He's just 25 years of age, of course. Here's a quote from an AFC coach. Intangibles are second to none. He can run the show for a defense, great tackler. He brings a calmness to a defense and a fearless competitor. So very, very interesting to see there. I'll go through these, then we can comment on them.
Sure.
PFF, Sam Monson, of course. John Johnson, number 3 overall. Ronnie Harrison, number 30 overall. And then CBS Sports, John Johnson, number 5 overall. Both Fitzpatrick and Jesse Bates out of Cincinnati ahead of Johnson on that list. No one else from us mentioned on that list. The discrepancy is pretty wild, right?
It is, and I think it's one of those positions that, when you lump them both together, the safeties as one, you get a lot of varying opinions on what matters the most. But John Johnson, and you heard what the AFC coach said, he can run the show for a defense. He did that. He was the play caller for the Rams last year. They were also the top defense in the NFL. Great tackler. He can play, in the hole. He can play in the box. He can play single high. He can play split. He can come down and cover the slot. Actually played the second most slot snaps of any defender on the Rams a year ago. So he's got complete versatility, great leader on and off the field. And he was the top target for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, there are people that thought he was number 2. Sam Monson has him as number 3. And as you mentioned, CBS Sports had him at number 5. And I love Ronnie getting into that list because I think Ronnie Harrison was just a flat-out baller for us last year. And I thought he was a difference maker. And so he gets an opportunity. And we add Grant to the mix. So when you think about 64 starting safeties in the NFL, Pro Football Focus, which was the only list that went long enough to get, even 32, you got 2 of them there, plus Grant, I think, is a guy that we all feel like has a chance to be on these lists next year as well. So I love the Browns safety room right now. But John Johnson, that was the guy they wanted, and they went out and they got him.
I think it's when you go back to last season, and I don't know that there was a thing that happened on our team aside from Baker and the bye week. I don't know that there was something that happened on our team that was a more noticeable change than before and after Ronnie Harrison. When Ronnie Harrison was in the game and when he wasn't was noticeable.
Yeah.
Dramatically so.
Yes.
Like he was a dude. And I can't think of anything other than Baker, pre-Cincinnati game to after, bye week and all that, where it was a very clear difference. Ronnie had that type of impact to me. He would have been number 2. Like in terms of this is different. This is different than what we were seeing previously at safety. When he was healthy, when he was in the roster, when he was playing, there was a dude on the back end. That 33 was everywhere. It was everywhere around the ball and was known. And I think, look, we love Delpit. I think John Johnson's a top 3 safety in this league. Ronnie Harrison's a dude. And I think
completely agreed.
You brought this up a lot last year, and you hated the loss of Delpit, but I don't know if you get Harrison if there isn't the injury to Delpit. You probably don't.
You don't.
And you don't. And so that happening allows for us now, with Grant's return to health, to have 3, and Sheldrick's no slouch either, but 3 bona fides at safety. If Delpit can be what we think he can be, I think 3 top 30 safeties in the league on one defense.
Which is exactly what Joe Woods would want in this defense. Jeff Howard, who's a great friend of the show, the Browns DB coach, he spends most of his time with safeties. So give me all the safeties. I'll figure out how to get them on the field. We'll figure out how to use them. And you think about the flexibility, not from just those 3, but also the 4 corners. Because now you have dimes. Yeah. You can have a 4-corner 2 safety dime. You can have a 3-and-3 dime. You have so much flexibility to be able to dictate mismatches. And Ronnie's so comfortable near the box, so comfortable blitzing. He was great at it last year. We saw that, as you mentioned, a nose for the ball. And to be a Jacksonville Jaguars team that was in a rebuilding year, to give up a player of his quality, and look, things obviously didn't work out for him. You could tell when he left, he was not pleased, not thrilled to be there. But for a 5th-round pick, he was still on his rookie deal. It's not even like he was a pending free agent at the end of the year. He's a free agent after this season. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll take him.
Thank you. Happy to have him.
Can you imagine Urban, telling Urban that? Like the guy who goes, oh, yeah. Last year we had Ronnie Harrison. Wait, who? You had the kid from Bama?
From Bama.
Oh, yeah, we had him. We had him. Wait a second. I recruited him. The kid out of Tal. I recruited that kid. Yeah. We had him. We traded him for a 5. You come again?
Come again?
What did we do? We did what? Yeah, that was tough. So I love our guys. I feel like I am so high on John Johnson, not just from what we've seen and what we saw on tape and what guys like Sam and the other PFF guys have to say about him, what Joe Woods says about him, but also talking to people connected to the Rams and what he meant for them. And it was just a reality of they can only pay so many defensive players. You can only do so much. They hated to lose him. He was as important as anybody. It's just that, they're paying Aaron Donald, they're paying Jalen Ramsey, and they can't pay everybody.
Yep.
So it was a numbers game for them, but rest assured, he is a beloved Ram. They hated to lose him. They know exactly what they lost in him. And so that when you hear that from the team that he left, and we had that guest on. I remember we had a guest on, a Rams beat person with the ESPN Gibby. What was her name?
Yes.
I forget the name, but I remember we had one on.
Lindsay Theory.
Yes. Could not have been more effusive
there you
in her
go.
praise.
Yeah. So, he's got a chance. And you said this early on. I would echo that. I think he's got a chance to be like a superstar here.
Yep.
I really do.
And what a world it is to live in, where coming to Cleveland and leaving the L.A. Rams.
What a line.
Is going to make you be basically have him as a player. His notoriety could blow up here, which I think is incredible. Yeah. And the line that you want, obviously, is why would I chase a few dollars and pass up the opportunity of a lifetime to play for the Cleveland Browns.
That's awesome.
It's
awesome. Do you think that this position, when you think, we've been, kind of trendsetters with what Sashi started here and in that route of rebuild, and we've seen that now echoed in Jacksonville. You're going to see it in Houston this year, a similar way of building a roster. And you think about what we're doing right now defensively with Joe Woods, with the type of versatility we have, and almost an ability to float from linebacker to safety and vice versa with JOK and with these three guys, kind of have like almost theoretically four positionless players, on the field at once where you can disguise. I do wonder if this position especially, in conjunction with linebacker almost walking hand in hand, will become a very blurred line from a position standpoint. We're seeing this more and more drafting guys. You think about Isaiah Simmons, certainly JOK, guys who can kind of do both. And it takes a special player to be able to do both, and you got to have a lot of them. But I do wonder if the evolution of safety we're kind of in the middle of it right now.
I'll be curious to see if there's any cross-training at all where, say, a Delpit or a Ronnie spends any time going through linebacker drills with Coach Tarver, and if JOK spends any time doing any type of safety drills. I think it would be more likely the former rather than the latter, because with a rookie, I don't think you want to overwhelm him with so much, but I'd be curious to see if there's any cross-training at all. So far, the only person we've seen do that is Felton, who got some time at running back, but then also spent quite a bit at minicamp. He was exclusively a wide receiver.
Right.
So that will be interesting to me to see how that kind of plays out.
Yeah, there was a revolution that happened about 25 years ago at wide receiver. It was then kind of with Randy, these big 6'4", 6'5" receivers, and then there was a bunch of them that came into the league. And then there had to be corners that matched. So then you wanted the 6'1", 6'2" corners. And I just wonder if these multi-dimensional linebacker slash safety hybrids who can cover guys out of the backfield, who can cover tight ends, if you will see more and more of that as the league goes on, and maybe we'll be one of the trendsetters of that this year, because we are so versatile defensively in the back end that it's really pretty frightening in terms of all of the things you'll be able to do. And a lot of it is because of the versatility of the guys we're talking about in this safety room. By the way, they all about look the same. They're all about 6'2", 26.
Yeah.
They all kind of look the same.
Well, I remember our interview with Kurt Warner, which was prior to the draft.
Yeah.
And he said, as a quarterback, that's what defenses need to do nowadays to have any kind of advantage. At pre-snap, we've got you. What you need to do is make me think for 1 second post-snap. And when you have guys who are similar, where you can disguise who's actually playing the single high, who's coming down, into the hole, who's blitzing from where, that's the kind of stuff that can disrupt a quarterback's ability to operate an offense efficiently. And the Browns have an ability to do some of that disguise.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom Pelissero of Good Morning Football, which superstar has to improve or has the most to prove in 2021? One of our guys get a little mention. We'll get into that coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. If you live and breathe football, you know sometimes keeping your priorities straight can be a challenge. Unfortunately, the same can be true when you gamble. If you find your gambling is affecting other parts of your life, get some help and get some tips on responsible gambling at keepitfunohio.com. All right, a few notes around the league. Let's start with Rap Sheet on the NFL Network with the very latest on the Deshaun Watson situation.
And I would certainly agree on that as far as the NFL goes. And you're right. I mean, it started with, we got a lot of time. We'll see as we get closer to camp. It is upon us, and nothing has really changed. There's been no movement toward a potential settlement. You know, both lawyers have come out and said they really have a fundamental disagreement as far as a settlement. Obviously, Deshaun Watson's people want everything to be public. The opposing attorney, Tony Buzbee, wants it to be completely private. And unless they agree on that, I don't see any settlement happening anytime soon. Obviously, the criminal investigation is ongoing, and it doesn't sound, based on my knowledge, that the Texans have made any move toward trading him at all. So we've gone weeks, we've gone months. We've heard from basically everyone involved except for Deshaun Watson, although he has posted on social media recently about working out and kind of getting back to football. But despite all that time being passed, nothing has actually changed at all, as we are just about a week to go before training camp.
You're up.
Jeez. So I'll be honest, the first thing that I think of when I listen to Rappaport there is that the Houston Texans are not going to trade him as with this circumstance being something that would drive down the price. So to me, they're going to wait out a resolution so that they can get full rate and freight for Deshaun Watson. They know he's not coming back. They've moved off of him. The roster suggests that. The front office, everything suggests that. But they're also not going to trade him for nothing now because of the ambiguity of his circumstance. That's the way that I read that.
I think you're right about that. Again, I don't know what the right word is. What's interesting to me about all of this is no criminal charges that we know of.
No.
You've got his lawyer wanting everything to be public. The plaintiff's lawyer wants everything private. And it's basically widely assumed, given the information that we have, that he's not playing football.
Do you think he thinks that?
I don't know.
Or is he like, I'll see you in a week?
I really have no idea. But I think the NFL owes him and the Texans. I don't know if that's even the right way to phrase it, because maybe he did do a lot of these terrible things and he doesn't deserve the right to play. But that's not. I don't know. It feels like you either have to say he's violated the conduct policy given that these things are out there, or if there are no criminal charges filed, it just feels like the limbo when nothing has been done other than a civil suit, which sounds clearly there are enough people that were impacted by his behaviors that they have felt the need to come forward. So I'm not condoning. I don't want, and that's so hard. It's so hard to even talk about because we don't know what actually happened at this point.
No,
we know people are upset about it. There have been, to our knowledge at this point, nothing criminal filed. But I just think they need to say, look, because this investigation is so thorough, there are 21 plaintiffs, something. We're gonna err on the side of caution, which is, we don't want to let you play and then have something come out, that you are found to be completely in the wrong. But I do think that there's something needs to be said about this. There's nothing being said about it. I'm glad I don't have to make those statements or decisions.
Right. I agree with you. I don't understand how there's any way that the NFL can open camp in a week and a half and one of its 5 biggest. Is he a 5 biggest star guy? He's close, right? He's top 10.
Yes, definitely.
He's definitely
close.
A 10 biggest star. I mean, he's in ads. He's known.
Yes.
Right? I mean, if you're redrafting the league, he's a top 5 pick. You can't go into a season with ambiguity on his eligibility.
Right, and that's what
there is.
Right.
You have to say he's ineligible, he's suspended indefinitely, or he's eligible. And in that case, if you're Houston, you either have to trade him or you have to fine him. Or you have to say we've reached a resolution that he's not going to be here. I mean, that's, to me, the minimum. The notion that we're all just going to act like I just wonder, like in his camp when, If as Rapp said, I don't follow him on social, but if he was like, oh yeah, I'm getting into football shape, for what? Like, is he delusional? Does he think he's going to play in a week somewhere else?
I don't know.
Wild.
It's bizarre, is what it is.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying. I don't know.
There's been nothing from the league.
I don't know what the right thing to say, but I just think there needs to be something that is said.
Agreed. Yeah, it almost feels like everyone, and I stand by what I said about the Texans, and it's almost like Watson and the NFL are kind of like, hey, let's all just sit this one out.
Right. Nobody wants to comment. And I don't know enough about civil suits to know if it's normal for the defendant to want things to be public and the plaintiffs to want things to be private. I don't know if that.
I don't either.
I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if that's abnormal, indicative of anything in past cases where something like this happened. I have no clue.
No. Yeah. And again, no criminal charges to this point.
Correct.
So, it's a wild circumstance, and it's a crazy situation.
It almost feels to me like for him not to be able to play, he's got to be placed on some type of a commissioner's exempt list, and then, what?
Yeah.
I'm guessing you don't get paid when you're on such a list. And so is that a precedent where somebody brings a criminal suit against somebody, they cannot get paid or play a season?
Don't have to compensate him?
Right.
Yeah. No, there's been nothing for months. I mean, just months on end of it. So, I don't know. It's going to be fascinating. Southeastern Conference Media Day is going on down in Alabama. You're saying, well, what do we have to do about that? What's the point? Well, here's the point. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey announces games will not be scheduled this fall due to COVID. It is up to teams to get vaccinated. If they don't have enough, they may have to forfeit. 6 of the 14 SEC teams have reached the 80% vaccination threshold, is what Sankey said. Now, it is kind of a well-known, especially towards the end, that the SEC kind of chilled out on the testing last year before vaccines were readily available, and kind of chilled out on all of that front. They had big waves last summer and then pushed back. It's just a little different, though, than the NFL in that, heck, if you're a player at fill-in-the-blank SEC school and you're in the facility all the time and the coach says, get your vaccine and then come work out, like 9 times out of 10, or in this case 8 times out of 10, you just go do it. Like, those kids do what they're told. They're not having some big thought on it. Like, they're just doing what they're told. I don't think they'll have a problem. They didn't lose many games last year anyway, so I don't think they'll lose any this year in terms of reaching that rate. But he is the first kind of conference boss that has come out and said that we're not. That's why I think it's notable, is no one else has come out and said we're not rescheduling. Get them in or you forfeit.
That's what he's saying. We are not rescheduling.
Yeah.
Get them in. I gotcha.
Yeah. And that's the first, because if the NFL is obviously the most popular sport in this country, SEC/Ohio State football is next, and him saying that is notable from that sense that, you're not getting any special dispensation. We're not going to hook you up down the road because you missed a game. If you miss a game, you forfeit, and we move on, and that's the way that they're going to do it. So, I don't know if others will follow suit. Last year, the Big Ten tried to zig while everybody else was zagging. It didn't work out so well.
Did not.
My guess is the Big 12 and the ACC follow is the way that I'm sure that they will handle that. But that is notable for those reasons. All right, this is from Tom Pelissaro from Good Morning Football on the superstar with the most to prove in 2021. Let's have a listen.
Which superstar player, quarterback, whoever you want, do you think has the hashtag most to prove this year?
Odell Beckham Jr.
Interesting.
If you're talking about the 20 biggest superstars in the NFL right now, you're just making a list off the top of your head. Is Odell even sniffing that list?
No.
Is his name coming? If you're talking about the top 50 biggest stars in the NFL, are you putting Odell on that list?
Oh.
This is a guy who every year he's been in the NFL and played the full season, not gotten hurt, he's had over 1,000 yards. And that includes 2019 in Cleveland when everybody talked about he's not fitting in, he's not getting the ball enough, is he going to explode? We all know some of the emotional challenges that he had early on with the Giants. They haven't seen that in Cleveland. What they've seen in this offseason with him coming off of his injury is a guy who has been ahead of schedule the entire way. He stayed in contact with the team throughout his rehab process. Expect them to go easy on his reps early in training camp. They'd probably do that anyway. But he's still only 28 years old. He looked phenomenal in the offseason, running routes better at whatever 90+% he is than most guys can run them at 100%. Would not be surprised at all if Odell Beckham Jr. has a big bounce back year in Cleveland, which, think about that. The Browns had a breakthrough season in 2020 without one of their best players on the field.
You're up.
All right, he was on the field and basically won us the game in Dallas and made some big plays early, out and up against Cincinnati. He did a lot of good things for this football team, so I'm not going to say they did it without him. Now, in the second half of the season, certainly you did, and you beat the Steelers in the playoffs without Odell Beckham Jr. When I hear what they were saying is Odell Beckham Jr. has not produced like one of the 20 biggest stars in the NFL the last 3 seasons, but he is without question one of the 20 biggest stars. You go around and ask kids all around this country, they all know who Odell Beckham Jr. is.
Yes, they all know who he is. Yeah.
So he is still one of the 20 biggest stars. He has not necessarily produced at a level commensurate with that popularity for a few seasons. I think he has the chance. I don't think he's going to be a 13. He's just not going to get 160 targets and have 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns in this offense. But can he be a star and be an impact player for the Browns? Absolutely. And I expect him to be that.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think the big key here is when you talk about, the production, it's all injury related. When he's healthy, he's a dude. And this has been, since he got here, it's, I just wish it would have been something if he hadn't gotten hurt.
Yeah.
Because it would have been amazing for him to be able to participate, like Baker in that bye week and truly get on the same page with everybody. Offensively, because that all flipped for us that bye week. Everything flipped, and now he'll be able to. And you think about what he brings. The dude is a home run hitter. That's what he is. You game plan. Ask defenses. You game plan for Odell Beckham Jr. Don't let him get loose. It's one more thing in the back of your head if you're a safety. It's one more thing if you're a corner. It's different when he's out there. One of the most absurd, nonsensical things that I hear, even sometimes around here, is that somehow we're better without him. Oh, no. You are not. You are not. The threat of Odell Beckham Jr. is legit. He is still a problem. I would love nothing more. There is such joy when he goes. The Dallas game was awesome. I would love nothing more than for him to have the year that I think he's capable of having. You go back to that the Vikings team with Thielen and Diggs, and go look at what those guys did in this offense together.
Right.
That's what I would love to see potentially be able to happen. Now, we have even more mouths to feed than they did in Minnesota.
Certainly.
But I think that there's a real opportunity here. But, I mean, unfortunately, his body has let him down, the last few years. Like, he just hasn't been able to stay healthy of no fault of his own. We all know how hard he trains, but he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. When you can't, that's what it is. It's nothing more than that. He hasn't lost. There's no steps lost, none of it. He just has been injured.
Right, and if you didn't know he were injured and you were out here at this minicamp, you wouldn't have thought he looked like somebody who was coming off of a major, injury to his knee, a major reconstruction.
No.
It's pretty incredible how good he looked. I'm excited. And I want for him, too, because every interaction I've had with him, I have thoroughly enjoyed. I find him to be a very passionate, deep individual, and I want to see him have the success. This all eats at him. So talented, so dedicated, wants to win, such a hard worker, and I really hope this is the year that it all comes together, because if Odell can be, from an efficiency standpoint, like a Diggs was in Minnesota, or like even he was early in his career, forget it. You're not stopping us. You might not stop us anyway, but now we're amongst the elite of the elite in the National Football League.
It's just exactly right. It's just a different layer. It's just one more home run hitter. I mean, it's what Nick Chubb is and can be on any snap. The fear of Nick Chubb going 80, that's Odell. You fear that if he catches a slant, he's gone. And that is a threat that opposing teams have to deal with.
Yep.
And so when you have that, you're different. You're better. It's a bigger threat. You know? Is there a who else do you think from a have to prove it star standpoint around the league, other than Stafford, who we've talked about a lot, certainly has a lot of pressure on him to show out this year? Is there anybody else that jumps out to you?
I mean, Garoppolo's got a ton of pressure on him in San Francisco, without question. I think Tua's got.
I think Lamar's got a little.
Lamar's got pressure. They got him a bunch of receivers. I think Tua's got a ton of pressure on him. What is he going to be able to do, with this Miami team? I mean, I was talking about some people over the weekend. They've got Jalen Waddle, Will Fuller, Devontae Parker, and Gesicki. I mean, that is a trio. Yeah. He has got talent, and they've got an excellent defense. So I think that there's some pressure on him. I'll give you a name that you wouldn't think of as there's pressure on, but Ryan Fitzpatrick. They've got good receivers. They've got a great tight end. They've got a great young running back. They've got arguably the best defensive front in the NFL and one of the best defenses in the league. They went to the playoffs a year ago with a guy who started their playoff game that I'm not even sure is in the league anymore. And he even said, this is the best situation I've ever been. I think there's a little pressure on Fitzmagic to see what he can do.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all sorts of different, whether it's your last chance or trying to validate your draft position. I mean, all of those things. I think certainly Tua in Miami would have a lot. To me, I think it's house money for Roethlisberger a little bit. Like, obviously, he wants to play well, and there's pressure on the organization that he does, but he's proven so much. I think, honestly, it's almost the other on him. Like,
he's underrated
after the way
now.
It ended.
Yeah.
It's almost like, everyone thinks he's trash now, and
Which
I don't think that he's quite there.
No.
No, not at all. So it seems like it's kind of gone the other way. But this is a fascinating season that we're going to embark on here in a couple of seconds. Coming up next, still so much more to come. And actual news. We have some news that we're going to pass along to you guys in terms of television broadcasts. So we have that to look forward to, which is nice. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, this is a little bit of fun news for the people, and certainly the non-locals of our fans of our fine football team, of which there are many. The NFL Network is going to carry the first 2 Browns preseason games nationally, so that means all 3 of our games will be seen nationally. But the NFL Network taking the Jacksonville game on August 14th, and then the Giants game on August 22nd. So that's awesome. That's good to see. So wherever you are, you'll be able to see us in the preseason as Browns fans, and God knows there's millions and millions upon millions of you out there.
Yeah, and they're only I think they're taking 23 games live nationally on NFL Network. 2 of those are the Browns. The other one that wasn't eligible. So they know the league knows clearly the Browns are a hot team. And you know what's neat about this one is this preseason. You know, our second game, which is the only home preseason game we got, it's going to be a Sunday at 1. I mean, it's going to feel like a real football Sunday, which is, I don't think I've ever, Gibbs, do you
why they did
ever
that?
doing a Sunday at 1 preseason game?
No.
Ever?
No. Anytime normally it's been Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. I don't even know if we've ever had a Sunday preseason.
And certainly not I can't remember a day preseason game ever.
Other than a 4 o'clock.
4, sure.
Yeah, but that's it.
It's wild.
Do you guys have any idea why they're
1 minute?
No. I wonder if they're just trying to get it.
Yeah.
Because there's only 3 weeks, they're trying to keep it as close to get people. Because there's still Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday games, but they're doing big Sunday games each Sunday. I don't know.
Yeah. Very
we'll take it, I
interesting.
guess.
Yeah, certainly will. And we'll take the next level, which is coming up next.